What's going on, guys? So something that I think I'm going to start doing is driving these media vehicles around the property here and kind of hitting some of the bigger bumps and driving over some of the things that might normally rattle you, but doing it in a different way. Actually doing it where I'm holding the camera in a hand and I'm driving with the other hand. Because, you know, if you really want to see how bumpy something is, try to hold something while you're doing it. Now, I'm not going to go out on public roads and do this. I'm just going to do it around my yard, but it will give me at least kind of an impression of how hard it is to hold something steady when you're driving around a bumpy environment in a truck. And, you know, the smoother the truck is, the easier it handles some of these bumps, ruts, and things like that. Well, that says a lot for the suspension and how tuned in the suspension is and how soft it is. So let's go for a little ride around the yard today. Hang tight. I'll be right back. All right, so this is a Pro4X truck. Typically when you hear those off-road terms, that means that the truck is gonna lean more towards the cushy side whenever you're driving. And that's really because the truck's suspension is gonna be designed for kind of articulation and movement and being able to dampen and take some of those bumps. So we'll go ahead and take off. We're gonna stay in two-wheel drive mode. We're not gonna try to modify anything because there's nothing here that's really gonna cause this truck to get stuck. But let's see how we can handle some of these bumps. And again, I am holding it in my left hand and I'm gonna see just how well I can stabilize it with my hand. And by the way, the camera stabilizer is turned on low right now because I don't want to give anybody a headache with the bumps if I turn it off completely. On some cameras now, it'll really make anything look smooth, but I want to get a bit more of a realistic perspective here. All right. Well, it is not a crazy rough ride, not as smooth as the Ram Limited that I drove, but that doesn't mean it's bumpy. Whoa, yeah. So it's a smooth ride. It's just, again, it handles it a bit different than some of the other trucks I've driven. Okay. Here's a big bump. All right, now I'm gonna hit this one kind of hard. Interesting. It's handling it really well. I mean, it's certainly not smooth in terms of the road I'm traveling on, but it's not jarring, and frankly, it's doing a pretty good job of taming a lot of these crazy bumps that I'm going over. Now let's go over one of my mounds. Mounds are very hard to see on camera, especially if you're recording it while you're mountain biking or doing something like that. Something that looks big never really shows up that way. This is one of my mounds. Okay, all right, let's go this way. You know, overall, it's doing a really nice job. Okay, let's weave through some of these trees without hitting them. Very cool. You know, it's a really comfortable truck. My arm's getting a little tired holding the camera, But overall, the truck handles the terrain really well, and it's a smooth handling, smooth riding vehicle. It feels light. That's probably an interesting aspect to it. You know, when I drive a GMC, when I drive even some of the newer Rams, they feel kind of bulky, kind of heavy. Not in a bad way. They feel kind of, you know, like a well-dampened vehicle. And this vehicle is certainly well-dampened. When you hit the bumps, you hit the things, you don't hear anything that you shouldn't hear. It just feels smooth. It's a new vehicle, right? It feels like a new vehicle. Things feel tight. It feels well built. Everything feels well assembled. Fit and finish is nice, but it just feels light. It feels like it doesn't weigh that much. Like it's a truck that's easy to kind of toss around and move around. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. My gut kind of tells me I want it to feel a little heavier, if that makes sense. When I'm riding in like a GMC Denali, it certainly feels like it's got more bulk to it. And part of that might be the suspension as well. This suspension feels more dampened than like a Denali. It doesn't feel nearly as dampened as like a Ram, but more dampened than a Denali. This is more on par with like an F-150. But it doesn't, again, feel quite as heavy as an F-150. So it's a really interesting, a little bit different feel. You might have to experience it for you to understand what I'm talking about. Whereas I have driven a Titan XD, and the XD does feel bulky. It feels heavier. It feels like you're moving more weight around. And this one just doesn't give you that impression, which is really interesting. But overall, it has a great ride. It feels comfortable. It feels maneuverable. It feels like it can handle the bumps, like it can handle the ruts. It doesn't feel like there's any issue. And if you're going off-roading, if you're going in really rough conditions and sand, you may like that feel. You may want a truck that feels like this, because certainly a lot of the other vehicles that are designed for that, like your Jeeps, like your off-road Rangers, things like that, they all have that lighter, more nimble feel to it. And that's kind of how this truck feels. But there's a lot to like about this truck. There absolutely is a lot of technology. I love the cameras. One critique against the cameras is, even though they kind of pioneered the 360-degree camera view and giving you all the really cool angles and all the different aspects for off-roading, the resolution isn't nearly as nice as what I see coming out of General Motors vehicles, where they have that super high, crisp, clear resolution. Ram has that really, really high resolution. Even Ford has stepped up a lot now, and they have a really high resolution. Toyota was kind of on par with this. I didn't feel like it was as nice as some of the other ones, but it's nice you get the views. The only challenge, in my opinion, is the fact that the cameras don't really stitch together quite as nicely. If you see, it all looks kind of broken up, and then you have these dark lines right here. I think they could probably work on the software. And even when you look at the font and some of the stuff right here, it just feels a bit dated. It feels like they could give you a little bit more here. They could make it a little bit more premium in terms of the screen resolution, how everything is visible, all of that. But these are all minor critiques. I mean, it's still a wonderful truck. The sound system is absolutely amazing. There's no way to replicate how that sounds on a YouTube video, but it's really, really nice. The ergonomics are really nice. To be able to just reach down and adjust your trailer brake. I do wish that your trailer brake controller was maybe positioned back here a little bit more, because of most of the trucks I've driven, this is a bit more of a farther reach to be able to control your trailer brake. Not that much further, but it would be nice if it was a little closer to you, maybe in this area right here, or maybe even right here. Move these switches over and put it right here, only because if you need to quickly grab that trailer brake controller to stop a sway situation, to engage the brakes on your trailer, oftentimes you don't want to have to jerk up to grab it. You want to be able to just reach it from where you're at. I think that's an easy one for them to modify if they're watching the video. Aside from that, everything's really nice here. The cup holder, this area right here, I don't really care for the fact that these have to pop out for you to access stuff beneath them. I like what Ram does, where it slides out of the way and you have access to everything here. But with this, you know, if you have drinks and everything inside of here, you really have to take the drinks out before you can access the storage areas right here. And I think it would make a lot of sense if they came up with a way of offering you this kind of storage without needing you to remove anything to access it. But these are all minor things. It would be really cool if they took that Pro4X badging and kind of placed it right here, because, you know, the center console just looks really, really plain. Doesn't look like there's anything going on here. I wish they had a little bit more going on here, just something to give it a little bit more pizzazz. Everything else, though, is really nice. This is a wonderful vehicle. I really like driving these. It's a fun vehicle. I love the tow mirrors. I mean, I'm going to focus on that for a while because the tow mirrors are amazing. These are the mirrors that almost any pickup truck should come with. They're perfect for half-ton trucks. I mean, your bigger trucks, I love the bigger mirrors, but for a half-ton truck, these are the mirrors you want. Or a large SUV. I would love to have these mirrors on my wife's Expedition. These are perfect tow mirrors for this size of vehicle. They don't need to be larger, they don't need to be smaller. They're about the size of your standard mirror, maybe a little taller to be able to support the concave mirror or convex mirror down in the bottom, but that is the type of mirror that I expect to see on every pickup truck, personally. It just makes sense. If they want to make the top mirror maybe a little shorter so they can make the overall body smaller and make it more of a universal mirror, that would be fine with me. But being able to have that bottom mirror right there the way it is absolutely great, and I love that. Anyways, guys, I sure hope you've enjoyed these videos. I hope you like this truck as much as I do. It's really, really cool. I'm not saying to go out and buy one. I'm just saying to include it if you're researching buying a half-ton truck. Just include it on your list. Stop by and check it out. Just like you should check out all the trucks from General Motors, Ford, Ram, and Toyota as well. You should go out and look at everything. Don't exclude something because you have a perspective on that vehicle that might go back years. It might be, you know, an opinion you formed 20 years ago when the first truck came out or the first specific style of truck came out. You can arguably say that every truck has a period of time that they weren't that great, and there were problems and there were issues. And if you base your opinion on their newest version of their trucks on those times and those issues, you may find that you're giving up an opportunity to have a really great truck at a really great price with everything you're looking for, only because you're judging it based on a vehicle that you had 10, 15, 20 years ago. Anyways, guys, I sure hope you've enjoyed this video. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.